Evidence 3. Human body care. Okay, the organs of the male reproductive system. The main organs, as shown in the image, are the colon, the bladder, the vas deferens, the testicle, the epididymis, the prostate, the seminal vesicle, the urethra, and finally the penis. Path that the sperm follows. Sperm produced by the test mature into the epididymis. Maturation is required for sperm to be able to swim to the egg. When sperm leave the epididymis, they enter a vas deferens. Then they pass into the abdominal cavity, where it curves around the urinary bladder and empties into an ejaculatory duct. The ejaculatory duct finally connects to the urethra. Function of each organ. Tests. The testicles are the male gonads, the primary male reproductive organs. Epididymis. The epididymis is a long coiled tube that rests on the backside of each testicle. It transports and stores sperm cells that are produced in the tests. Vas deferentia. During ejaculation, the smooth muscle in the walls of the vas deferens contracts reflexively, thus propelling the sperm forward. Seminal vesicles. Seminal vesicles release up to 60% of the fluid found in semen. Prostate gland. The prostate gland is a male reproductive organ whose main function is to secrete prostate fluid. Urethra. The urethra is the tube that carries urine from the bladder to outside of the body. Bulbourethral glands. They add fluids to the semen during the process of ejaculation. Penis. The penis is the male sex organ. And finally, the scrotum. It contains the testicles as well as many nerves and blood vessels. The male external genitalia. Okay, so the main male external genitalia are the ones shown in the image, which are urethra, the corpus spongium, the glans penis, the corpora cavernosa, the testis, the scrotum, the prostate gland, the seminal vesicle, the vas deferens, and the penis. Organs that contribute to the production of seminal fluid. The glands of the male reproductive system produce sperm and seminal fluid. The prostate gland, the seminal vesicles, and the bulbourethral glands contribute seminal fluid to semen, which carries and protects the sperm. Hypothalamus and pituitary gland in males. The hypothalamus controls some of the basic functions of life, including hormonal activity via the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is often called the master gland because it controls several other hormones glands in the body, including the thyroids, the adrenals, and in the case of the males, the testicles. Hormonal regulation of the male reproductive system. The entire male reproductive system is dependent on hormones, which are chemicals that stimulate or regulate the activity of cells or organs. The primary hormones involved in the function of the male reproductive system are the follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, and luteinizing hormone, LH, and finally the testosterone. The hormones involved and where they are produced in the male system. The FSH. It stimulates the testicular growth and enhances the production of an androgen-binding protein by the Sertoli cells. It is synthesized in the anterior pituitary gland. LH. It stimulates the testosterone production from the interstitial cells of the test. It is also synthesized in the anterior pituitary gland. Testosterone. A steroid hormone that stimulates development of male secondary sexual characteristics, produced mainly in the test, but also in the ovaries and adrenal cortex in the case of the woman, and in the case of the males, it is produced in the tests. Function. The pituitary gland releases follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone into the male system for the first time. FSH enters the testes, stimulating the Sertoli cells, which help to nourish the sperm cells that the test produce, to begin facilitating the spermatogenesis. The organs of the female reproductive system. The main organs of the females are the ones shown in the image, that are the ovary, the fimbria, the uterine cavity, uterus, the cervix, the endocervix, the ectocervix, the endocervical canal, the external os, the internal os, the fallopian tube, and finally the vagina. Where the oocytes are produced. The oocytes, first of all, is a cell in an ovary that form an ovum. An oocyte is produced in the ovary during the female gametogenesis. And here you can see an image representing the oocytes. How the oocyte is transported to the uterus. The oocyte is transported to the fallopian tube where fertilization by a sperm may occur. Then the fertilized egg moves to the uterus, where the uterine lining has thickened in response to the normal hormones of the reproductive system. Major components of the female external genitalia. These ones are some of the male major components of the females and are the labia majora and minora, the hymen, the clitoris, the opening of the urethra and vagina, the perineum, and the anus. Structure and function of each organ of the female reproductive system. The main structures and functions of the female reproductive system are the ovaries, the uterus, the vagina, the cervix, and the fallopian tube. The ovaries have two main reproductive functions in the body. They produce oocytes for fertilization and they produce the reproductive hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Uterus. They are nurturing Uterus nurturing the fertilized ovum that develops into the fetus and holding it till the baby is mature enough for his birth. The vagina receives the penis during the sexual intercourse and also serves as a conduit for menstrual flow from the uterus. Cervix. The function of the cervix is to allow flow from menstrual blood from the uterus to the vagina. The fallopian tube. It transports the ova from the ovary to the uterus each month in presence of sperm and fertilization. The uterine tubes transport the fertilized egg to the uterus for implantation. Next, the hypothalamus and pituitary gland in females. The hypothalamus, as I said before, controls some of the basic functions of life and mainly including the hormonal activity via the pituitary gland. The hormones are made in the anterior or front part of the pituitary gland, and in the females there are some hormones such as prolactin that stimulates breast milk production after childbirth. It also affects sex hormone levels from ovaries and women. Hormonal regulation of the female reproductive system. The hormones controlling the female reproductive system include the gonadotropin-releasing hormone, GnRH, the follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, and luteinizing hormone, LH, all of which are produced in the brain. Estrogen and progesterone produced by the ovaries. Now, the ovarian cycle. The first half of the ovarian cycle is the follicular phase. Slowly rising levels of FSH and LH cause the growth of the follicles on the surface of the ovary. This process prepares the egg for ovulation. As the follicles grow, they begin releasing estrogens and a low level of progesterone. Progesterone maintains the endometrium to help ensure pregnancy. The trip through the fallopian tube takes about 7 days. At this stage of development, called the morula, there are 30 to 60 cells. And if pregnancy implantation does not occur, the lining is sawed off. After about 5 days, estrogen levels rise and the menstrual cycle enters to the proliferative phase. The endometrium begins to regrow, replacing the blood vessels and glands that deteriorated during the end of the last cycle. Now, the uterine cycle, or also known as the menstrual cycle. The ovarian cycle consists of the follicular phase, ovulation, and luteal phase, whereas the uterine cycle, that is this case, is divided into menstruation, proliferate phase, and secretory phase. Now we have an image that represents all the cycles in the female system and how they are related. So, as the image shown before, the ovarian cycle influences the uterine cycle, as the ovarian cycle governs the preparation of endocrine tissues and the release of eggs. If this does not happen, then the uterine cycle wouldn't be possible. So, while the menstrual cycle governs the preparation and maintenance of the uterine lining, these cycles are currently and are coordinated over a 22 to 32 day cycle with an average length of 28 days. Okay, so now there are different methods of birth control. There are the hormonal methods such as pills, patch, and novering. There are the barrier methods such as condoms, spermicides, diaphragmas, cervical caps, sterilization, and there is the natural method, that the most known is the abstinence. Now, how they work to prevent pregnancy. Each type has a different way to prevent pregnancy. Some prevent it with a physical barrier, such as the condoms, while others affect the hormonal processes preventing the pregnancy, such as the pills, the patches, etc. Which birth control methods are effective at preventing the spread of sexually transmitted diseases? So basically, there is only one answer, and it is the most common, cheap, and useful method, that is the condom. And it physically blocks the contact of the reproductive system, and it does not allow them to spread any sexual disease. References.